Welcome to Unit 8. In this unit we're going to talk all about solid waste. Notice on this first slide it looks like a pile of just normal trash, but what it actually is, if we click on it, is a picture. Here, the website pulled up on my other screen, so here it is. It is a picture of circuit boards in a recycling center. So all of that is circuit boards. We're going to begin by discussing what municipal solid waste, MSW, is and how landfills fit into all of this. So here is the problem with solid waste. About 250 megagrams of waste is generated annually. There's a link here to help you visualize. I'll pull that up. It's more from the same artist. So for example, here is a picture he made, and if you zoom in on it, let's see, how did we zoom? Oh, this is all out of cell phones. That's what I wanted to see. And there are others. For example, this one is all out of circuit boards. More circuit boards. Kind of gives you an idea of how big a problem the waste is when you can make something like this. So it's becoming increasingly expensive to dispose of all this waste in an environmentally responsible way. Dreadfully sorry. We have leaching, we have runoff gas, we have gases produced when things decompose. Primarily that's methane. So what goes into municipal solid waste? Most of it, just about 36%, is paper and paperboard, or paper and cardboard. The next biggest percentage is yard waste at 12%. Then both food and plastic are between 11 and 12%. Rubber is at 7%. Oh, I missed metals at 8%. Glass and wood are both between 5 and 6%, and everything else is the last 3 to 4%. Notice 70% of what is in municipal solid waste is organic, which means it's biodegradable. So the paper is, the yard waste is, rubber, leather, and textiles are all organic, as is wood, as is the food waste. Right? So 70% of it is biodegradable. Why we have an increase in municipal solid waste? Well, we have an increase in population. We also have a lifestyle that leads to excessive packaging and a disposable consumer society. We throw away diapers, we throw away toilet bowl cleaners, we throw away bottled water. They even made disposable cutting boards. So this is a video of a lady named Annie who wrote a story called The Story of Stuff, and again, I'm sorry, it was on my other screen. I will post this interview with Stephen Colbert about her talking about her project to the Sakai site for you, like I did last unit. So where does the municipal solid waste go? 30% of it is recycled, 15% is burned, and the other 56% lands in a landfill. Notice, if you add it all up, that's 229 million tons per year of municipal solid waste. So how does disposal happen? Well, you have factories that dispose of cinder and metal scraps, demolition waste, including lumber, pipes, and masonry, garbage and other rubbish from homes and commercial businesses. You also have construction waste. You have anything that's swept up from the street. All of that typically lands in a landfill. So landfills emerged in the 1930s. Hazards with them are leachate, which is chemicals from the landfill entering the water system outside the landfill. Surprisingly, the concentration of the pollutants in the leachate is much higher than in the raw sewage or in raw sewage. It's condensed, it's concentrated. You also have uncontrolled production and release of methane. The methane is produced when the materials in the landfill biodegrade. We can't control that, and it is released. So what is in the leachate from a landfill? Chemical oxygen demand for general organics, meaning we're just adding oxygen to the water, right? And this is in grams per liter, so 14,300. Where does the oxygen come from? From rotting yard waste, paper, and garbage. Right? There's benzene from adhesives, deodorants, oven cleaner, etc. Dichloroethane, again from adhesives, degreasers. Toluene, xylene. There's also some metals from sometimes electronic components, sometimes it's in the cleaning agents, but like nickel, chromium, cadmium. Kind of scary. So remember, landfilling, that's the fate of about half of our municipal solid waste. What happens is the refuse, all the trash is packed into a cell. So here is a cell, right? The dump truck dumps what is being stored, the compactor compacts it, and the earth mover covers it up. So here is a schematic, and here is a picture of an actual landfill. Right? If you look at the anatomy of a modern landfill, right, you have a contoured floor with leachate collection pipes. Right? You also have monitoring wells around the landfill that look at what is in the groundwater before and after it. So here is the before one, since groundwater is flowing this way. Here is the after one over here. If we look at this side, here are the monitoring wells on all sides, some before, some after. This black and white stripe is a clay cap. There is also a clay liner. This is the solid line. There's some sand layers. And here are our leachate collection pipes. Right? So where do we put a landfill? What are the environmental factors that go into deciding where you're going to place a landfill? Well, you have to look at the topography. You have to look at where the groundwater table is. You want the landfill above the groundwater. You want it where there's the least amount of precipitation. You also want to look at the soil and rock materials in your location. If your soil is more clayey, that's better because it's less likely to let water pass through it. The other thing you got to think about is social factors. So locally unwanted land use, LULU. So where can I put it where nobody else wants to be? I spent about 8 years in Bozeman, Montana doing my graduate work at the Montana State. The landfill was just outside of town. It was there. Everything was happy. And then a subdivision went up just beyond it. And all of a sudden, The homeowners in the subdivision are throwing a fit because now they're downwind from the landfill. They can see it, they can smell it, the noise, but the landfill was there first. So originally it was locally unwanted land use, and then it wasn't. But what are you going to do? Right? Definitely those landowners became NIMBY. They did not want that in their backyard. You have politicians. They don't want to deal with it. Not in my term of office. NIM2. Right? So, we actually ship the waste around quite a bit. Areas with lots of population, New York, New Jersey, Maryland, and the DC area, don't have anywhere left to put their waste, so they ship it away. Other areas have lots of space and are willing to take it in. So a lot of places in the Midwest also import solid waste a fair bit. Right? Your trash is our treasure. So if you look at it, the highest importers of municipal solid waste were Pennsylvania, Virginia, Michigan. The highest exporters were New York, New Jersey, and Maryland. We have to monitor our landfills. Not surprising, we have to look at what's in the gas, what are the gases in the soil and the fill. How are the heavy metals? You know, we don't want lead getting into our water supply any more than we want other things. Cr is chromium, Fe is iron. What about the soluble substances? How much chloride, nitrate, sulfate can enter a water system? You got to look for runoff. You got to look for lighter waste being blown away. So a bunch of paper sitting on top, off it goes. What happens when you're done with the landfill? Well, you put a cap over the top and you put in these, for lack of a better word, wells where the methane that's generated in the landfill can escape. Here is the picture of the top of one. Often you might see these are actually lit so the methane burns rather than just being released to the atmosphere. You also have wells for monitoring the leachates and collecting the leachates as best as can be done. So what else can we do? We can landfill it. We can also burn it. And I believe this is a schematic that we had in a previous unit. So I'm not going to go over the schematic again. But remember, 12% of municipal solid waste can be recovered and recycled. Right? 80% can be burned for electricity production, resulting in hazardous emissions to the atmosphere. But what is better? To burn something we already have to create electricity, which is going to result in pollution, or to dig up something else like coal, or dig a well for something else like oil, and then burn that and get emissions to the atmosphere. Something to think about.